Hello there, how are you? Today's video is going to be a Music Monday because I have had a lot of requests actually to do more Music Mondays, and I need your opinion on things. I'm thinking about branching off and doing a second channel when I get my shit together, which hopefully I have. Thinking of doing a second channel which will be all music, because I want to do more concert reviews and more album reviews and all of that, and I don't want to flood this channel with that kind of content. So if that's something you would be interested in, then yeah, just let me know in the comments section down below. Also, I will address a couple of things. One, some of you probably don't follow me on Instagram and you wouldn't have seen this. I broke my finger and I've still got, I think, 14 days left of this splint thinger, so yeah. Also, if it looks like I've had lip fillers done on the top lip, I have not. If you follow me on Snapchat, you would know that I had a horrific allergic reaction a few days ago where my whole face ballooned up, and the reason why my top lip is still swollen is because my piercing here got stuck and jammed in the swelling mess. So it's slowly dissipating, but yeah, it got completely jammed in it, and yeah. It's one thing you don't really think about when you're allergic to things, and you don't plan to have allergic reactions, so you don't think about the whole repercussions when you have piercings. But anyway, today's video, if you have not already guessed at the title, from the title, today's video is going to be my top 10 albums of 2019, and boy were there some bangers, but there were also some pretty fucking disappointing albums released this year. So I've got all my notes here on different albums and different aspects that I liked about them, from everything that I bought and completely listened to this year. Two albums I know people are going to ask me about and ask me why they're not on this list. Number one, Fear Inoculum by Tool. I have a lot to say about this. It was a disappointing album in my eyes. Was it worth the 13-year wait? In my opinion, no. Honestly, I could go on forever about, not forever, but a decent amount of time, about why Fear Inoculum was not the album that I expected. I guess we shouldn't have expectations of people in bands, but I'm just going to give you one example. The middle part of the title track, Fear Inoculum, was released ahead of the album, almost as promotional material, and the middle part, I felt like all of a sudden I was like, wait, am I listening to Reflection from the Lateralis album? But yeah, disappointing. I do listen to a couple of the songs are quite enjoyable, but as an album, as a whole, it is painfully average. Another painfully average album from this year was We Are Not Your Kind by Slipknot. I know I'm gonna get a bit of hate from the whole maggot army. It just didn't do it for me. It felt like a whole album of filler. And yeah, just especially from the first song that was released, which I think was Unsainted, I didn't like it. It just didn't do it for me. But I know other people will, and I know that Slipknot fans will probably come at me for that, but I'm more of a old school Slipknot fan in the way like Iowa, Volume 3, The Subliminal Verses, Self-Titled, you know, those were great albums. And that segues into the beginning of the greatness that is this list, in my opinion. If your opinion differs to this, that's cool. Let me know what your favorite albums of the year were. This is just in metal music, because otherwise Post Malone would be in here as well, because I really love Post Malone. So this is just metal and metal kind of genres and anything that kind of fits within that area. So anything outside of that is not really included, but I may, if I do this second channel, I may delve deeper into more genres of albums that were released this year that I really enjoyed. Also, tell me your favorite albums of this year in the comment section down below, because I would love to hear what you thought. Also, this is not a complete list in the way that there are some bands I haven't really kept track of, so please understand that. Number 10. So starting from 10, working our way to my absolute favorite of the year, 10 is The Sea of Tragic Beasts by Fit for an Autopsy. This album is a strong and hard-hitting follow-up to 2017's album The Great Collapse. Fit for an Autopsy have been a consistent band, not a front runner in my opinion, but they are very consistent in their music. I don't really dislike any of their songs, but this album is probably my favorite of theirs at the moment. And I really liked the first song that they released off the album, Shepherd, but it isn't the best on the album, so my personal recommendations, if you're wanting to either get into Fit for an Autopsy or hear what this new album's about, I highly recommend the track Mourn. That's my favorite off the album, Mourn. Then Unloved, Warfare, and I'll say Shepherd as well because that's the single that they released. But Mourn, definitely, that is my favorite song off the album. Great album, and I really hope Fit for an Autopsy decide to tour Australia this year, because I've been hearing along the grapevine that they have been planning to do an Australian tour, so I hope that happens. Yeah. Number 9 is an album that I talked about at the beginning of the year, back in March maybe, February, March, The Heretics by Rotting Christ. I'm not going to say too much right now about this because I did already talk about it in length back in that video, so I'm not going to repeat myself, but let's break it down. Orchestral, it's hard, it's amazing. They're an extreme metal band that has almost that religious behemoth kind of feel to it as well, but they sound completely different to Behemoth. I also appreciate that they did 1, maybe 2 songs, I'm trying to go off the top of my memory here, in Greek because they are from Greece. Notable tracks on this album include Fire God and Fear. Forgive me if I say these next 2 wrong. Vitre Zlay or Zli, something like that, and Dies Irae or Dies Irae, something like that. I'm really sorry. I usually research deeper into this, but I have been kind of flat out lately. Yeah, just been doing a lot of stuff, and I work in the concert circuit as one of my jobs, and there have been a shit ton of concerts come through Brisbane recently, so I have been all over the place. Number 8 is Shaped by Fire by As I Lay Dying. This is the first album in 7 years that they have released due to the fact that Tim Lambesis, the vocalist of As I Lay Dying, was incarcerated, imprisoned, because he pled guilty to soliciting the murder of his then estranged wife. I think they're like fully divorced now. I haven't really looked too much into that because like I kind of half cancelled the band after that. Like I still listen to their music and all of that, but it wasn't until pretty much everyone and their mother told me you have to listen to Shaped by Fire. So I gave it a listen. I really liked it. As I Lay Dying have always been one of those like incredible, they have a unique sound to their guitar riffs. Not so much their vocal areas, except for his clean vocals is quite unique, but their guitar riffs are very unique in my opinion. So this album was actually quite a solid return for the band, and I'm happy for the other band members, everyone else except for Tim Lambesis, because you can go get fucked. So musically, this is a great album. Lyrically, it is also quite good. If you read through the lyrics, it's actually quite I can't fault it. There are a couple parts that do seem a bit copied and pasted from a couple of their old albums. There are a couple parts that do seem kind of cliche, but everyone does that, so I can't really fault it. So lyrically, it's a good album. Musically, it's a good album. Tracks I recommend include Shaped by Fire, which is incredibly catchy. That's one thing that had me actually have to put this on the list, is because it got stuck in my head very, very quickly, and I found myself humming it and singing the chorus hours after I stopped listening to it. So that is a sign of quite a well-written track, in my opinion, because if it can stick in your head, then clearly they've done something right. Also, two other tracks that I would recommend is Redefined and also Only After We've Fallen, I think it's called. Yeah, they're really good. Also, the track Redefined guests August Burns Red vocalist Jake Lurs, I think his name is. So that's also something if you're a fan of August Burns Red. Number 7 is Lotus by Xoan. So if you follow me on Instagram, you would see that through most of this year I have been posting a lot of Xoan because, let's face it, if you've been disappointed by Tool or Opeth at all this year, Xoan's your answer. Xoan have this sound that is like kind of a very unique amalgamation of old Opeth and Tool. And considering both bands, I did not enjoy their new material. Xoan has been a great kind of filler for that void in my soul from those two bands. Xoan are incredible, absolutely incredible. I discovered them at the beginning of the year through a Spotify recommended thing, because I went on like this week binge of all old Opeth and Xoan popped up. I woke up to this strange song in my ears, and it was Void by Xoan. So I was actually like, wow, this band is really good. Got into their stuff, new albums released, and the rest is history. I love Xoan. But this album is it's lyrically incredible. It's probably one of my favorites of the whole entire year lyrically, because it has messages within everything, and I just, Xoan create prog delights that are emotive and musically incredible. The music alone can really pull you in emotional directions, but then the lyrics added on top of that just add to the whole experience. It's really incredible. It's one of those bands that I wish I discovered earlier, because then, yeah, I don't know, I could have lived a couple more years listening to their music, but, you know, I've got the whole future ahead of me. Notable tracks off this album that I would recommend, Lunacy, Martyrs, and Covenant. They all sound completely different, but they also, I really love the fact that they have heavy usage of bass and kind of like Tool. Tool have heavy usage of bass lines, and it has more of a foreground within the music. Xoan is very similar with that. Number 6, Pitfalls by Leprous. I actually kind of forgot about Leprous for a good couple of years until this album was released, and it was like a rediscovery, and I love that feeling when you've kind of forgotten about a band or an artist or a song or something, and you rediscover it, and it just feels like listening to it all over again, but at the same time you already know it. So it just, I don't know, it's a good feeling, and I like it. But this album, it opens up with a very powerful song, which is probably my favorite off the album, called Below. It is a very emotive and vocally incredibly powerful song, and it really sets the scene for yet another amazing album from this Norwegian, I think they're Norwegian, prog metal band. I can't fault Leprous. I've never hated any of their stuff. I quite like everything they've done, and their vocalist is incredible, absolutely incredible. So yeah, highly recommend that. A lot of these are prog, I'm noticing. there's, yeah. Number 5 is from one of my all-time favorite bands, Soilwork. So Soilwork put out Verkleiden, I think that's how it's said, I'm not really sure, Verkleiden. They put that out earlier this year, and far out, it's an amazing album, and I had the privilege of seeing it live recently, and I also met Björn Strid at the bar just before he played his set, so boy, that was amazing. I also got to do some press coverage and all of that for that, so that was really cool, and one of the best nights of my life. I absolutely enjoyed it. I went with Mr. Phillips. Yeah, even though we're split up, we still hang out constantly. So in my eyes, Soilwork have done no wrong, and I hope it continues like that, because this new album is amazing. And they just put out another song, and I was lucky that the Brisbane, like the Australian tour in general, were some of the first people to hear their new song Feverish, which they just released. It's not on this album, it's I think a single for an upcoming album, so when they performed that live I was like, whew, this song's only been out for like 3 days. Soilwork is one of those bands that is constantly evolving yet always remaining true to their sound. They have a very unique sound, not just because of Björn Strid and his vocals. They are some of the most unique vocals. He has a beautiful clean that can transition into dirty and growling very easily and quite smoothly, which I really appreciate from vocalists in bands. But also instrumentally, the way their riffs are written and their drumming patterns are they're very Soilwork. That's all I can describe it as. Some notable tracks of this album, forgive me if I say this wrong, Stalfigel, I don't speak Swedish, I'm really sorry. Also Arrival, Full Moon Shoals, and The Wolves Are Back in Town. And I got to see all of those live, so if I will be doing another video on the recent concerts I've done press coverage of, so you'll see some footage of that. Number 4. This is a band that kind of really just popped up randomly one day at the beginning of this year for me. Again, Spotify recommended, Sleep Token, and their new album, Sundowning. So they have been releasing these weird little singles and EPs that have 1 or 2 songs, or they have a re-released song with a new song. It's really weird. That's why their Spotify looks like they have a million albums. But this is the first full-length album that I could find. I really researched this because I was wondering, did they have anything else that just didn't happen to be on Spotify? But no, this, as far as I can see, this is the first full-length album that they've released. How do I describe Sleep Token? They are somewhere between progressive metal, a bit of gent, indie, some soundscapes. I don't know, it's a really strange sound, and it's very unique. They fit in with these genres, but at the same time they don't, so it's really hard to describe Sleep Token. But I'm so happy with this album. Another album I can listen to from start to finish. It opens up with an amazing song, one of my favorites, which is The Night Does Not Belong to God. Other notable tracks include Gods, The Offering, which is also another one of my ultimate favorite songs at the moment. Higher, Levitate. I could name the whole album. It's incredible. If you're into any kind of gent or progressive, possibly anything that moves into the territory of like kind of like indie soundscapes and all of that, give Sleep Token a listen. Because even if you're just looking for something new, if you're someone who's only into black metal and you're just wanting to experiment with something new, give Sleep Token a go. Number 3 is The Simulation by Born of Osiris. This is another band that I had the privilege of seeing this year. I have been to, I think, like 30 or 40 concerts this year, so it's been hectic, but most of those were involved with press coverage and all of that stuff, so technically work. Born of Osiris, if you haven't heard them, they are a prog technical metal band that have heavy djent influences. They again are another band that has very unique everything. Unique riffs. You can tell a Born of Osiris riff instantly. Just, they are very, very talented people. The vocalists, they've got dual vocalists, which again it's not uncommon, but at the same time it's not super common. This album is no exception to all of their back catalogue. All of their albums contain very, very catchy riffs, and you can instantly recognize the songs because the riffs are different every song, and that I really like that, because the moment a riff starts, you're like instantly, I know that song. Devil Driver is very, very good at that. Also, All That Remains, the instant that song, like the guitar riff starts, you're like, yes, I know that song. That's the blah blah blah. Also, catchy vocals, particularly the song Under the Gun. When I watched them perform at the Brightside in Brisbane, everyone sung Under the Gun, and it was a great experience just to watch everyone sing the chorus to that, because it's quite a powerful chorus. A lot of their lyrics are very, very well done. Actually, all their lyrics are quite well done. They are good on every front, and yeah, I really, really love this album. I would probably dare to say that it's going into probably my top 20, maybe a bit lower, like top 30 albums of all time. Some notable tracks off this album include Under the Gun, Silence the Echo, Disconnectome, and Circles of Tragedy. I really like those. Again, all very recognizable songs, very easily recognizable, and yeah, I really like Born of Osiris, guys. Number 2 should be no surprise that it's on this list if you know me at all. Hail Stan, or Periphery 4 by Periphery. Everyone knows how much I love Periphery. Well, hopefully everyone knows, because I really love Periphery. If you haven't heard Periphery, they are djent. They are progressive technical metal with heavy djent influences. Just one of the powerhouses. Typically when I talk about technical or progressive or djent, people instantly go to Periphery for that kind of thing. It's a weird album compared to their others because it contained a few different changes compared to how they usually do things. So the first song, Reptile, was like 17 minutes long. There was also a weird dubstep kind of track in it, but it was actually really catchy and I quite liked it, so that was a bit strange. It definitely feels like the most diverse Periphery album because there was some of their slower stuff. There was actually an incredibly hard track, which was Blood Eagle, which I talked about earlier in the year. Reptile was a ballad. And then, yeah, Crush, which was like a dubstep kind of song. But I really liked it. It really worked. The album flows. And I love the fact that Reptile is another ballad style song because Race Car is one of my all-time favorite Periphery songs. And that's another ballad style song that they've done. So Reptile felt good that they were doing something like that again. And Reptile is a journey within itself. Like, listening to the song is a bit of a journey. So yeah. Notable tracks off this album include Reptile, as I said, because that's the ballad style, Crush, which is the dubstep style, It's Only Smiles. It's Only Smiles is a very, very sad song that has a very weird uplifting beat to it, like uplifting sound musically, but it is incredibly sad. So it leaves you feeling a little bit confused at the same time as feeling uplifted. So that's a bit of a strange one, but I really liked it because you don't often see that. Melancholic lyrics typically are paired with melancholic sounds. Yeah, it went the other way. Blood Eagle, because that is probably... Blood Eagle is a very, very heavy song, and and I really liked it. Very, very hard hitting, and also Garden in the Bones. I really like that song. And this whole thing all brings me to number one. I know that there are going to be some people who will say, I don't like your number one, or I don't like the musical direction that this particular band has taken, so The Valley by Whitechapel. So Whitechapel have been a long-term favourite for me. I've been listening to them since the beginning, so it would have been like 14 years ago. Oh, I'm old. This is a bit of a concept album, which I didn't expect from Whitechapel, but at the same time, this was a great thing. This was amazing. I really apologize for the neighbor's bass, by the way, because they've decided to have yet another party. It's Tuesday. This is a very emotional album. Incredibly emotional. The whole album, the concept of it is Phil Bozeman, the lead vocalist of Whitechapel. He wrote about his less than ideal childhood. He had a very, very dark upbringing, and this whole album is different segments and different stories of that childhood, and I love the fact that he opened up about it. And he did it musically, and everything is so well written on this album, and I love the fact that Phil Bozeman has continued with doing clean vocals, because not only is he an amazing growler, his dirty vocals are incredible, but he has really nice clean vocals too, very emotive as well. So to everyone who thinks Whitechapel should go back to growling only, that's your opinion.
But it's the wrong one.
No. I personally love the fact that he kept with it, despite the fact that the whole fan base was very torn on previous clean vocals. And I think he's produced one of the most emotionally powerful albums that I've ever heard in the whole entire metal area of music. So I'm really proud of him. I'm really proud of the whole band, and I love the fact that Whitechapel went this way with the concept album. This album, to me, is an artistic, musical masterpiece, which is why it's number one, and it is actually just now one of my favorite albums ever. My previous favorite Whitechapel album was actually This Is Exile, but The Valley has kind of trumped that a little bit, despite the fact that, you know, Messiahbolical is kind of like one of my ultimate jams, and it's one of those songs that I play almost every time I'm going out to pump me up, you know, because it's one of those songs that just makes me want to, you know, throw fists and stuff. Not that I do that in public, but I hope you get what I mean. Notable tracks off this album include Hickory Creek. Hickory Creek is probably the most emotional song on the whole entire album, and very, very hard-hitting lyrically. The whole album, lyrically, musically, everything is very melancholic. Very melancholic. The first few times I listened to Hickory Creek, I just started bawling my eyes out. And even now, if I listen to it when I'm in a bit of a mood, I start crying. Yeah. Also Third Depth, which I spoke about earlier in the year before the full album was released. When a Demon Defiles a Witch, also there's a film clip to that, and it's a very emotional one as well. And then Forgiveness is Weakness. I highly recommend, if you give this album a listen, that you also check out the lyrics and stuff, because I don't want it to be lost in just the music. The lyrics, they mean something to someone, and they tell a story. So yeah, that's my top 10 albums of 2019, and I think this was a really good year for album releases, a fucking amazing year for concerts. So many bands came out this year, and I had an amazing time. I may do a video about all the concerts that I went to, but I think I'd just be blabbering on forever, and everyone would probably end up either falling asleep or plotting my death if I did that. So, you know, I don't think I have any footage from Cradle of Filth. I don't think I have any footage from Devil Driver All That Remains, because I had a seizure at Devil Driver All That Remains. After All That Remains set, I kind of dropped, but I went back in to finish. After I got checked out by the ambos and the paramedics and stuff, I signed a release form, went back in to watch Devil Driver because I paid for VIP and there was no way that I was gonna miss out on that. So I know people are gonna be like, but Ree, what about your health? I'm an adult, I make my decisions, deal with it. So anyway, I hope you enjoyed this video, and I want to know what your ultimate album of the year, if not like your top 5 maybe, put them in the comments down below. Let's start a discussion. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel if you haven't already, because I would love to be here for every single video. Also let me know if you would like that separate music channel, because if I did that, that would be where all these Music Mondays and stuff would go, but also I would be doing a sit-down podcast listening to music and just talking about random stuff with Mr. Phillips, because we're really close friends. I dare say that he is still one of my best friends on this planet, and I would be one of his. We help each other out, we chill, you know? Like this video if you liked my list, or if you didn't, still like it anyway. Comment down below if there's something you'd like to see on this channel, and I hope you all have an amazing, wonderful, fantabulous day. I love you guys, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye! My top lip is still fucking swollen.